Hello, I am Reverend Irene Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to Generationally Speaking. Here at the table, we come and we discuss life issues, no matter what they might be. As we sit at the table with each generation, we all learn, we all grow, we all are inspired.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Generationally Speaking. Hello, I'm Reverend Smith, your host of Generationally Speaking, and I'm excited about my guest today. Let me just say, if you've not gotten your tissue, if you don't have a pen and pad, if you don't have some tea or whatever you're sipping on, you need to go get it right now because this conversation is going to be rich. If you were with me last week, you know I promised that I was going to do a continuation of authors as we talk from the book Living in the Key of Joy, an awesome book. It's volume 3. And I'm excited this evening to have 3 more authors in this wonderful journey. It's a book that everyone should get. It will touch your heart. It will meet you at some places that you're wrestling with. It's just a great read. When I received the book as a gift, I couldn't put it down. I kept reading and reading, and I said, I've got to have them on Generationally Speaking because I want them to share their journey with you so that you can be inspired, informed, and transformed by the renewing of your mind. Well, let me just get started because I know you're ready, like Reverend Smith. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Okay, so let me first introduce my first guest, and that's Dr. Katrina Miller. Dr. Miller, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm
so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. Tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
I am a professor by profession, and I'm also the owner of K.E. Miller Enterprises, which is a communication empowerment company.
Amen. Hey, did y'all hear that? She's the owner. I love it. I love it. All right, and then sitting next to her is Gail Clanton. Gail, introduce yourself to the audience.
I first of all want to thank you, Reverend Smith, for this opportunity. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Gail Clanton. I'm president of Clanton Communications, LLC. I'm also a marketing professional in the Washington, D.C. area. Very happy to be here.
I'm excited, and we're going to come back to Gail near the end of this show because we have some additional information that I want her to share with you, my audience. And then the last person that I have here is Michelle Hall. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you for having me. My name is Michelle Hall, and I am the owner and founder of The Esteemed Life, which is a coaching and personal development company. But my formal training and my work experience is in the accounting field. I am a certified public accountant as well.
All right, all right. Well, I'm going to get started with Dr. Miller, and she writes in this book, Joy in My Seasons of First Love. Ooh-wee. I think all of us remember our first loves and, man, what it did to us. And no one could tell us that we wasn't going to be in love with that person for life. Well, she shares her journey, and she tells us about HB, hospital boy. Y'all know what I'm saying. And then she talks about her other love, Alice. I don't want to tell you too much because I want you to get the book. But trust me, when I got there, I was like, where's that tea? I need to sip on that tea for this because it was good. So you fell in love.
Yes, what you can define as love as a teenager, yes.
So
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about that teen love.
Yes. It's hopefully everyone's had that opportunity to be in that teen love. It's really exciting, and of course it gives you I really think it sets the stage for more adult relationships. And it's a way to kind of cut your teeth on the romantic part of love, if I can say that, and really kind of what to expect and what you kind of want even or don't want as you mature and develop more romantic relationships.
Well, we all love some good romance stories, and we all love to watch Hallmark, because it always ends happily ever after. We always, Cinderella. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Boy meets girl and girl meets boy, and they ride off into the sunset. Okay, Dr. Miller. It was obvious that there was some connection,
Yes, some
but
connections.
you wasn't connected.
Wasn't connected.
So tell us about what was missing in this teen love that it wasn't the mature love that both people needed in order to move forward.
And you said the key word,
Okay.
that maturity was missing. I think in both of the cases, especially the one with HB, Hospital Board, we were both starting our lives, professional lives. And I think that has a lot to do with
Yeah.
the decisions you make as adults. And we had priorities that we were looking forward to in terms of the future. And I think it's important that those options are explored, and also that you are mature enough to enter into something at that age. So it was an experience that I will always treasure and learn so much about it. I was very blessed that it was a positive experience, because some folks do not have a positive experience with their first love in terms of how to be treated as a lady and what to accept and what not to accept, and the interaction that you learn as you mature through these romantic relationships. And I'll be forever grateful for both of the gentlemen that sowed that part of that love into my life.
I love how you shared that, you all were teens in love, and that as you matriculated from high school and you went off to college, and he decided that he was going into the Marines, and while you all still had some connection, but that there was growth on both sides.
Yes.
And in your growing on both sides, you sort of grew apart from each other, and share that, because I think sometimes when we young people, oh, I love him, I'm going to love him forever, and forever sometimes it's 6 months.
Yes, or even a year or two. I think that as you know yourself, because it's also important to know yourself, and as a young person, young adult, you're really just learning what you do like and what you do want. And I think that it's safe to say that's okay that you grow apart. I know there are many people who've been blessed to indeed marry their first love or their high school sweetheart, and then that's really, really good. But I think it's part of the emotional growth that you should take as an adult,
Yeah.
and that it'd be a safe space.
And I like the fact that you said that they fostered the way a woman should be treated. And that was important,
Yes.
because as you move forward, you said, okay, this is what love feels like. And love doesn't hurt.
Right.
Love doesn't hit.
Yes.
Love doesn't try to overpower and all of those things.
Right. It adds to your life.
It adds to your life. All right. Well, okay. And moving from love, that romantic love that we all like to have or have experienced in our lives, we move on to pre-retirement.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out here who some are saying, wait a minute, Reverend Smith, I can't wait to retire. And others are saying, I'm not sure if I want to retire. And here it is, Gail Clanton, she wrote her chapter, Joy in My Season of Pre-Retirement. So pre-retirement is a planning stage of what I want. And there she wrote about God's great joy. And she listed at least 6 reasons for personal joy and looking forward to retirement. So as you first got to this place of pre-retirement, internally, what did it do for you? Were you excited? Were you frightened by it? What were did you have some anticipations? What was it?
Well, I think my first reaction to it was surprise, because I just kind of looked up and I was at this stage in my life. I pretty much throughout life have done the things that I was supposed to do. Things were very predictable for me. And so now I was at a point in my life where I was getting older. I have choices, so things were not as predictable. I had to make some serious, or start thinking about some very serious decisions to make. And so when I started writing my story, I was determined to make these decisions in the midst of what my life has been up until this point. So I talked about joy of options, being able to having lived a life that affords me some options. I have some choices that I can make, and I'm very grateful for that. One of the other joys I talked about in this season was the joy of relationships that I've built with family and with friends, so that when I do retire, when I do stop going into an office every day, I will have things to do. I will have people to hang out with. I'll have folks that I can talk to. And then the other thing that I think really motivated my story was the fact that I have seen a lot of people not get to this point
Yeah.
in life. I've experienced a lot of loss of young people, college friends, high school friends, neighborhood friends, people that passed, in their 20s, 30s, 40s. So I don't want to take this opportunity to retire for granted. I want to embrace all the joy that will be in this season in my life, and thank God that I'm still here, recognizing that there are still things for me to do, and just feeling blessed and joyous in this season of life.
When you talk about pre-retirement, and some people are apprehensive because they fear that they won't have anything to do. They fear loneliness. They fear isolation. What would you say to them?
Well, one of the things that I say in the book is that I'm using this time to build the life that I want to go home to. So I'm really trying to be deliberate about the relationships that I allow in my life. One of the things I talk about is I'm being very deliberate about the nouns, the people, the places, the things that I allow to be close to me, because I don't want to bring negativity. I don't want to bring anything that is going to deter from the happiness and the joy that I think God wants me to have in this season and wants all of us to have in all seasons. So what I would say to people, and I very deliberately talked about pre-retirement. I'm not ready to retire yet. I got to build some things up. And so I just would suggest that people use these years prior to retirement to, like I'm trying to do, create the life financially, create the life mentally, spiritually that you want to come home to.
Wow. I think that's good. So how far out do you start planning pre-retirement?
Well, for me, I started thinking seriously about it 3 years out.
Okay. 3 years out. Okay. And so then you started putting things in place to prepare you for retirement. And financially, what financial steps would you recommend a person take? What should they start to look at?
Well, what I did, because I'm, Michelle is the numbers person. I write. So I went to a Michelle. I went to a professional to say, hey, this is, these are my monthly expenses now and what I'm anticipating in retirement. So let me know what I need to do to be ready for retirement. What I think I am doing on my own is more of a mental check to make sure that I am ready to leave, to make sure that I have things to do, when I stop going into that office, making sure that I have projects to work on and things like that.
I think it's important that you start to think about that because, you have friends at work, but when you retire, those friends don't necessarily come with you. Mm-hmm. So it's good to start to have a wider sphere and interact and start to do things that
Yes.
you can build relationships and start to pursue. Well, going from retirement, we go over here to Michelle Hall. And Michelle Hall wrote, "Joy in my season of self-discovery."
Yes.
Michelle. When you start talking about self-discovery, oh, it can hurt. It can bring out some things that you didn't know. It can cover and uncover so much. So, what made you decide, first of all, that you wanted to write a chapter or your journey on self-discovery?
Ooh, that's good. Well, this opportunity came about at a time in my life where I was ready to write it. I was ready to disclose and just release the story to help others get to the point to where they could do self-discovery and they could, get started on their own journey to healing. And for me, my journey to self-discovery really started with healing. Healing a lot of hurt that I had carried all of my life that I had never had an opportunity to work through and to process. And it just all kind of came to a point to where it was just too heavy. It became too heavy for me to continue to bear. And I talk in the story about some of the hardships that I endured, one of which was sexual abuse as a child that I had kept secret. And I had not told anyone, and I finally came to a point to where I disclosed that information to my husband. I was married at that time. And that was when I really got into counseling. And I thought I was going to counseling to resolve those feelings about the childhood sexual abuse. But it turned out to be about a 3-year process where I just really went through all of my life and all of the hardships. And I just really, once I got started, it was painful, but it felt good at the same time. And I just really wanted to work it all, work through all of it and heal it all. And so that's how it really became a journey of self-discovery.
I can remember a period of my life when I did self-discovery. And I think when you do self-discovery and you start to unearth some things that you buried and you start to face them face on, that it gives you the opportunity to start afresh and anew.
Yes,
Because those things bind you in ways that you never even imagined
absolutely.
and keep you tied to people that are never good for you.
That's so true. And like I said, I thought I was going just to resolve one issue, and it ended up being my entire life. I really, once I got into the counseling, I really just kind of went back to the beginning because I had internalized so much my entire life. And when I began to work with the counselor, I just recall telling her, "Yeah, I have so much stuff. I have so much stuff. Where do I start?" And I guess because I'm a numbers person, it just made sense to me to just go back to the beginning and start from the beginning and work all the way through. And it was a long process. It was a painful process, but it was something that I was ready for. It was something that I was ready to do. And I'm so, so very thankful that I went through the process, went through the pain of it all, because I no longer carry that burden.
Yeah. And so when you first decided that you were going to go talk to a professional, did you share with that with your family, and how was that received?
No, I I only revealed to my husband about the sexual abuse. Now he knew about some other childhood hardships that I had, but like I said, I thought I was going just for the one thing, and I had not disclosed the abuse to my family. And I had no intention of doing so. I was going to go and work through it and not ever let my family know about what had happened, because it was a family member that we had grown up with, and I didn't want to cause any problems or rifts in the family. And I felt like, well, if I can work through it and get over it, I don't need to tell anybody about it, anybody else about it. And that was my stance for quite a while. But God works things out the way that he sees fit to work things out. And so later on, a few years after that, an opportunity came about where another family member was talking about something that had happened to them. And it was like the Holy Spirit just spoke to me and said, this is your time to share. And it became easy. It was not something hard, something that I had to struggle with. It became easy for me to disclose what had happened to me. And that was really when I was free to move towards the work that I'm doing now.
Yeah. I love the self-discovery, and because I think that there are lots of us who are walking around sometimes burdened down by some life issues that we've not gotten the type of professional help that we need so that we can move forward. We've just found a way to work around them or to overcompensate for some stuff instead of being free. We don't recognize sometimes the trauma that we live in.
Yes.
You know, but you wrote here this statement. It says, "Peace and joy are the results I gained from going through it, and it was well worth each and every tear."
Yes.
That is powerful.
Yes.
That is
It was.
powerful. So when you begin to write out this journey of yours of self-discovery, when you begin to put it to paper, Pat, and all of this started to come up out of you, did you find it freeing? Were you apprehensive even about sharing it for other family members to read and hear?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I was ready. Like I said, the opportunity just came about at a perfect time. I started a podcast back in October
Okay.
of last year, and I had shared some of these stories in different parts of the podcast. But this was an opportunity for me to put it together in a story, in a a comprehensive story to show the chronologic order. And to express more of how these events made me feel and how I dealt with them. So there was no reservations. I actually was speaking to a good friend of mine who read the story not too long ago, and she was like, "You really laid everything out there." She was like, "How did you feel about that?" I said, I'm good. I said, I shared everything that I wanted to share. There are things that I didn't share, that I don't want to share, but everything in the story are things that I am very comfortable sharing. One, mainly because I want people to know that healing is possible. That, we all have some type of issues or traumas or hardships that we've experienced, and we can choose to deal with them and free ourselves, or we can continue to hold on to them and be in bondage. I didn't want to be in bondage anymore.
All right. Now, do you still have your podcast?
Yes.
So tell us about how people can listen in to your podcast.
Yes. My podcast is named Broken to Blessed. I just did a rebrand with the new name. It was first started out as The Esteemed Life, and it was to help support women who have had difficult childhoods like I had. But as time has gone on and I have searched my heart and come more into alignment with what God has called me to do, I rebranded to Broken to Blessed to focus specifically on women survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And that's what I'm doing.
All right. Thank you. And is that on YouTube or?
You can find it on most podcast apps. It's
Okay.
on Apple,
Okay.
Google, Spotify, iHeart,
Okay.
and it's also on my website.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, all of these journeys had to have a catalyst, a person who had the forethought, the wisdom to decide that it was necessary to put these stories together. And that person is Gail Clanton. And Gail, as I read here a little bit about you, I see that you are a professional writing coach, and that this is not the first book that you've been responsible for, and that here you said various themes are used so students learn to more fully recognize the power of their words and how to use them to reflect, rejuvenate, educate, and encourage. So tell me, how did you come about deciding that you wanted to pull these anthologies together to put them out so that they could be a blessing for those who read it?
Certainly. So, one of the things that I mentioned a little bit earlier is I said that I had lived a very predictable life. You know, I grew up in church and I went to school and I got the degree and I came home and I did all those things that I was supposed to do. And then I got married, which was, supposed to happen. And then I got a divorce. And that's when I say I grew up and really understood what it meant to be a Christian, a child of God, recognizing that sometimes God says yes and sometimes God says no. And as I went through a very difficult and long, and indeed I say expensive divorce, I began to write. I talked to friends, I prayed, but I got a lot of healing also through just writing my thoughts down. And so eventually I compiled some of my thoughts into my first book, which was a solo project called Sparkle in the Rain. And it's not a sad book because all of my writings were not sad. I was very blessed to go through what I went through in a way that I came out whole. And I really began to, at that point, embrace the power of words and the effect that they can have not only on you for telling your story, but on people who write the story. So because of the healing that I experienced writing and because of the effect that I saw my writing having on other people, I realized that I'm not the only one that's got a story to tell. There are a lot of people that are holding in stories that will not only help them by releasing them, but also help other people, as I say, get onto their other side of through. So I wrote the very first anthology with that in mind. It was 20 women. It was in the midst of the pandemic. It was right at the time when George Floyd had been murdered. The world was crazy. And my only prerequisite for these women is that you had to tell a story about your life, and your story has to have a happy ending. Because we didn't need no more sad news at that point. And so the response was remarkable, not only for the authors, but also for the people that were blessed to read their stories. And so, quite honestly, things have shifted in our atmosphere, but the world is still crazy. So when I searched for a title for the next anthology, I was like, okay, still we need that joy. So it was, again, living in the key of joy. And then this book that you're holding is volume 3 of Living in the Key of Joy. And I chose the idea of joy based on a book that says that you have joy when happiness is not enough, because joy is something that you create on the inside.